Joining us right now, as he does after each win or loss, is our pal John Keim, covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. And John, of course, we have to start with Jayden Daniels. Is there any news on the injury front?
No, the latest, and obviously anybody I'm sure knows, like Dan Quinn said after the game, no update. What you know is, or what you hear is that you keep hearing he's okay. I don't know yet what that means, right? Like, it's a rib injury, and okay could mean, hey, it's not a long-term thing, right? And I think we know that's what you come away from the game thinking, and that he was in good spirits on the sidelines, and that's a good sign. And I don't think he'd be standing up on the sidelines if it was severe, right? So I think you know all that. You just have to wait for more tests today, because you always know, like, that's last week, John Allen, the early word was that it's not a severe thing, and then you get more tests, and then you hear, oh, it is. So, and I don't think that's the case here, because there were so many people saying he's okay. But again, we don't know, like, can he play Sunday? Is it going to be 1 week and it's okay? We don't know, because the rib injuries can be tricky. Like Dorrance Armstrong sat out yesterday with a rib injury. And, I was talking to him earlier in the week about just that's a painful thing. But I don't know the severity of this one. So it's a lot to say that there's really no update.
How surprised were you by Mariota's performance? He only has 5 incompletions, 2 touchdown passes. His stat line seemed very similar to a Jayden Daniels stat line this year.
Yes, I was surprised. And now there's a couple things. That's not to take anything away, that's a really bad defense. And so, I think you start – that's part of the equation here. However, it's a really bad defense, and he looked bad on his first 3 throws, and he did not show this summer like that he was going to operate at a certain level when you watch him. But that 92-yard drive, he had a couple completions, and it felt like now you got your rhythm. And so, yeah, I was surprised, and then he got rolling, and it was, he had some throws that's just a really nice throw. He used his legs, much like Jayden, obviously, to extend plays, the touchdown pass to Ertz. But even there was one right before that where he steps up in the pocket, keeps your eyes up, throws down to, I think, McLaurin. So, yeah, I think, and the level, there was a throw to McLaurin where it was very much like Jayden last week, where on a little comeback, I think it was, where you see him throwing the ball before McLaurin's really getting into his break. And that's just, there's a confidence and a timing that comes with that. So I also think it's a big credit to how this team operates, but the offensive staff and Cliff Kingsbury as a play caller, and I think into preparation and all that. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. But I was surprised at not surprised that they would have moved the ball, because, again, not the best defense, but surprised at how efficient he was throwing the ball.
John, great to have B-Rob back in the backfield. Yeah. And because of the nature of the game, it was a blowout. He only had 12 carries, so he can get some rest on the sidelines while McNichols and Eckler can handle some of the carries. How did he come out of that game? Was he any worse for the wear? What was his health status like?
Seems okay. And so, yeah, I think it seems like he's fine. And here's the thing with running backs, it's usually the day after or Tuesday when it's like, oh, you know what, maybe. But yeah, I think you're right. The fact that he didn't have to carry a big load is a big bonus for them. So, but he seemed to come out okay. And the one thing too, I'll say with this group, McNichols has earned more time, and I think they feel really comfortable with all those guys, and that's a big plus too. There were packages that in the past it was Eckler and Robinson. Well, they're putting Eckler and McNichols in there, and it's still effective. So I think this staff has built. They use guys who are producing, and McNichols does. So it allows them to not overuse Robinson, especially in a game like this. There was no need.
Just getting back to Jayden, I'm sorry, Jay, just for a second. I'm assuming it's a relatively minor thing by all the things that you said and the mom tweeting, et cetera.
Yeah.
But, I would be surprised if you miss a week or two, just on the air on the side of caution.
Right.
But do you think that when it comes back, they maybe reevaluate a little bit the designed runs? Because, he's going to run.
It's the one thing we were worried about.
It's the one thing, and it's kind of coming to fruition a little bit. You think it'll change their approach at all, or are they just going to just plow ahead and just say, he's a tough kid, he can handle it?
I don't think like one run would change it. I think they knew, first of all, it's football, and so you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Guys get hurt in different ways, and so you don't want to lessen it. But I don't think you change everything based on one run.
Mm-hmm.
And plus it was, we're not quite sure exactly which run. I think it was the first one.
I assume it was the first.
Yeah,
because the next play, you see him going to his ribs. So, it was so I don't think you change it on that. I think you have to say there's just sometimes you fall awkwardly.
This happens in football.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are times where, listen, quarterbacks get hit in the pocket and get hurt. And so, I don't think you can change just based off that. I think where I would say where if it was an issue would be the way he's handling those runs. If it played in general, if he's not, if he's being reckless with it, then I think you can do that. That wasn't a reckless run.
Right, for sure.
And then the way Marcus played, they might say, okay, well, he just stepped in, systems no different. And he was doing a lot of the same things that Jayden was doing.
He was, and it's funny because Zach Ertz was talking about this afterwards. That he's like, I said he played against Mariota in college where they ran a similar style offense. He goes, I don't think he's run this style in the NFL, and it fits him better, right? Mm-hmm. So you have some of that as well. Although I think the one thing that you saw in camp for sure is that Daniels is just more accurate and ball placement, et cetera. So. That would be certainly a difference and just a little bit bigger threat with the legs. But I don't think they're going to say we'll keep running because Mariota can do this. I think it's more like this is what this team can do, and he can do very well, meaning Daniels. And again, if he was just being reckless and just always taking on three defenders when you lower his shoulder to get extra yard on 2nd and 9 when it's a 2-yard run, then maybe you got to work with this. But that I just don't see that with him at this point.
If there was anything broken, if he had a cracked rib or stress fracture, was that something that would have been announced yesterday, or is it still pending?
I think we would have probably known that.
Yeah.
But that's why they're getting more tests today.
Right.
So, and again, I think the fact that a lot of people are talking about in good spirits, smiling on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this: if it was cracked, he's not on the sidelines.
Yeah, right. That's what I feel.
So yeah, no, I don't.
Is there anything? I know none of us are doctors, but is there anything where you can pop?
There's a lot of doctors on social media.
So. No, for sure
there are.
And actually, I can kind of be a doctor, to be honest with you. But is there any situation where you can pop something in and out? Because it almost seemed like he was a totally different guy when he came back out, almost like they rubbed something, or maybe he just took an Advil.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
I like to.
You dislocate your finger and you pop it back in. I don't know.
I like to cook ribs and smoke ribs. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about fish.
I don't know how they operate in the human body. I'm right there with you, John.
I understand.
I know they're tasty on a smoker. That's what I know. Yeah. But that's about the extent of it.
You guys got to try and make him laugh or cough because that's the giveaway. If he grimaces on a laugh or a cough,
well, he was laughing.
Then it's gonna. Yeah, so I think he's good.
Well, I'll say this: my ESPN counterpart in Carolina suffered I think a fractured rib or something like that. 10 days ago. He was in the press box yesterday, and you could see on his face how painful it still was. So he was not smiling, and this is 10 days later. Now it's a 60-year-old sports writer, but still,
and he's covering that team.
Sometimes guys say bruises are worse than even a crack.
And I don't know. I do know, again, in talking to Dorrance Armstrong, just how painful that was for him the first few days, especially, and how uncomfortable it was just to sleep and. And that's why, I didn't think he would play just because, just what he was saying. It's painful.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know this. I don't know if it's the same thing or not here. We'll find out.
And I bet you he feels worse. He will feel worse this morning than yesterday. It's just the way it is.
And the tests will tell. The tests will tell a lot.
I feel worse after a round of golf the next day.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Hey, let's talk about the defense just for a second. A lot of these things you have to I think it's great. Any win's great. And when you play a team that's obviously struggling, to pound them, that's like the best case scenario. But I still don't know what to make of it. Although I will say this, like they do look like they're playing more physical. There's a more sort of killer nature to them the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think that part has been there slowly, started earlier, several games ago.
Yeah.
And you see that in bunches, or you see that in spurts, whatever. But, that's Carolina's a bad team, but that offense had been moving the ball.
Yeah.
And we saw that on the first drive, like, shoot. And here's the other thing. I was just watching it now. Like, you forget, like, that screen, they had that little throwback screen. That could have been a touchdown. But it was Dante Fowler who blew that up and forced a really bad throw by Dalton. And, so like that, and the point is, like, their first 6 or 7 plays were very effective.
Right.
And that's what I was kind of anticipating, that, all right, this is a team that's going to be in this game for 2.5 to maybe 3 quarters. And then these guys will pull away because they won't be able to stop them at all. So like they did a good job against them. I think so much of it for them is making sure, like, getting gaps filled on the run, right? That's been a big deal. And then some of the, quote, communication breakdowns in coverage where 4 guys seem to know what they're doing and 1 doesn't, right? And so, like, if you can clean those up, you can at least be a better defense. And in watching it, like, more of that was better yesterday. Like, the one long run was a jet sweep where they just didn't see him. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like, it wasn't a breakdown in communication and coverage. It was a good play by Carolina and fooled them. So, but by and large, they were just so much better. Again, that's with Dalton, that offense had been top half in the NFL when he was in the 4 games that he's been previously had been starting. So, like, lower first half, but first half nonetheless. And so, like, and I also think once these guys got ahead, it just, it starts to change what Carolina can do. And
right.
Like, the Chubba Hubbard was not going to be an issue at a certain point. Yeah. And that was
well, and I thought Deontay Johnson would have been targeted a lot more. He didn't do anything. I think he had 1 catch.
Yeah, and the first drive. Yeah, and so, like, I agree with you. I thought he would be a bigger factor, and they did a good job on it. Yeah, they did, and so I think the defense absolutely deserves a lot of credit because, again, really bad team, but the offense had been pretty good. Good, right? It's good enough, but they moved the ball against other teams.
Hey, John, can I ask you sort of what's the protocol for a reporter like you when a guy like Jayden gets hurt? Are you, like, this morning and last night calling the agent, calling everybody associated, calling the cousin? Like, is that, like, how do you handle that?
I mean, yes, you talk to people, various people, some close to him, right. Some with the team or whatever, just to see. But that's why I say, like, anybody you talk to is like, yeah, he's okay. But again, we don't know what okay means. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're going to text and just talk and try to find out. Just if there's someone who's like, yeah, we're not sure, right? And but see if there's any sort of like, well, we just got to see. But it's more like, yeah, he seems okay. It's just the test will tell more about the severity, and then we'll know more about. Mm-hmm. But I don't even know if we'll know, like, today, because we'll talk to Dan Quinn later this afternoon. I don't think he's going to say, like, oh yeah, he's out, whatever. I'm going to guess that they won't.
Yeah, they're going to make the Bears wonder too. So
yeah, for sure. And I also, but I think you'll know. Okay, it's
you'll know by Wednesday.
For sure. Well, you'll know if he's practicing or not, and then how he's moving, and then, to be honest, like, watching him throw, because that was the big tell yesterday when he went to throw and he grimaced.
Right.
And so the fact that he went back out there before then was probably a good sign that, with what the doctors or trainers thought. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Need a Jayden cam in the parking lot to see how he comes out of his car.
Right.
I know it's like 4 a.m. He's already there. He's probably already over there. Doesn't he get there at 4?
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe not today. Maybe not today.
it's closer to 5 a.m. It's still really, really early.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a lot earlier than a lot of other quarterbacks have gotten there before.
Hey, JK, real quick, did Brandon Coleman get hurt yesterday? Did he have a concussion issue?
Yes, and he left the game. So that's another one to monitor. And, the good thing there is that Cornelius Lucas has played a lot and has done a nice job, but Coleman had been starting and improving every week.